is going on, Brownie Bros? It is Big Time Brownie here for a TBA Season 2 Draft Recap video. First of all, I want to say hello and welcome to all the people coming over from Twitch. And if you have not been to my Twitch channel, make sure you go check it out at twitch.tv/BigTimeBrownie. We are building an incredible community of people over there who are just amazing. I have the best chat in the world, and we've been growing so much over the last couple of weeks, and I cannot thank you enough for the support. It is twitch.tv/BigTimeBrownie. The link will be in the description below. Also, before we get into the video, I want to apologize for not uploading consistently recently. I've been focusing a lot on Twitch, but we are going to be coming back to YouTube as well. We will have a team builder for our first battle of the TBA season on Thursday, and then we'll have a battle on Friday. And then, in the future, we're going to resume our VGC content and our Showdown content, including our OU Big Time Climb series as well. So please stay tuned for that. And then probably even further in the future, we're a couple weeks out from it, we're going to be doing a Pokemon Shield Nuzlocke challenge. So please like this video if you enjoy this content, and make sure you subscribe so you do not miss any of our future YouTube content. Once again, I apologize for that. And then finally, before we get into the meat of this video, I know it's a long introduction, but I just want to get all the information out there. We have opened a Discord server called the Brownie Box where people can trade, talk, hang out, do whatever. Make sure you also join that community as well. It's in its very nascent stages, so not a lot's going on there, but I encourage you to go over there and make something happen. A link to that will be in the description below as well. Alright, let's get into this. Enough's enough. We are here for Season 2 of the Trainers Battle Association, or the TBA for short. Last season, in the Silver Division, we finished in second place. We started 0-2, we made it all the way to the finals, and in a very unfortunate battle, we lost in the finals. Due to, in some part, to hacks. We could have won without the hacks, but there were also other ways we could have won, so, we learned a lot that season. We really improved, and, I'm looking forward to learning from our mistakes and applying ourselves in this season. So a little bit of information. Last season there was bronze, silver, and gold divisions. I was in silver, but now the TBA has split into the TBA majors and the TBA minors. I am now in the TBA majors, and within the majors there is the blue division and the red division, and I am in the blue division. I will put a link to the Blue Division doc in the description below so you can follow along with who's getting the most kills, which teams are winning, and all of that stuff. So how it works right now, tentatively, is that the Blue Division and the Red Division will compete with each other, and then the playoffs will be interconference. So we had the Blue Division and the Red Division are completely separate in terms of drafting. They're essentially, their Pokemon draft, the same Pokemon are drafted in each division, so Pokemon are not limited to one division. If that's confusing, make sure you ask comments in the comment section below. I can explain further. But there are 8 teams in the Blue Division, and a lot of great battlers from last season, including the winner of the Gold Division from Season 1. And just a little bit of housekeeping, I'm going to give you some of the rules for the TBA. So these following Pokemon were banned as voted by the community: Dracovish, Mew, Darmanitan, both forms. I was really hoping Zenmo Darmanitan would be allowed, but unfortunately it was voted out. Zacian, Zamazenta, and Eternatus. And, Pokemon Home will be released soon, but whatever Pokemon are available are the Pokemon that can be used. Whatever Pokemon are available right now. At least that's my understanding. So Baton Pass is allowed, but you're not allowed to pass any stats. No accuracy dropping or evasion gaining move, including like Minimize and Sand Attack, and then all other standard OU clauses applied, although Shadow Attack and Arena Trap are not banned, which is, we'll get into that a little bit later. And essentially, yes, Pokemon Home moves are banned as well. So the rules for the draft were we had to pick between 9 and 11 Pokemon, and there was a point system draft. You had to reach a total of 110 points. So I have 11 Pokemon on the screen that you can see that I picked, and we ended up reaching exactly 110 points. The draft occurred this past weekend, and I'm really excited to share my team with you guys. So I do want to say that Saturday, which was when the majority of the draft happened, I was out, so I didn't get to do as much prep as I wanted to, or put as much thought into the picks as I had previously. So at first I was not like super happy because I felt like I just wasn't putting that much thought into my team. But after sort of thinking about it, I'm really excited to use this team. So let's get into each Pokemon. As you can see, we drafted Excadrill, Hippowdon, Silvally, Gengar, Rotom-Mow, Mantine, Flygon, Passimian, Gothitelle, Charizard, and Golisopod. So, I'm gonna sort of talk about my draft strategy. So I was picking 5th in the draft, and the Pokemon that I really wanted, were obviously Dragapult and Aegislash. Those were the top 2 Pokemon I wanted. Those went pretty quickly. Tyranitar also went pretty quickly as well, although it did go after I picked my Excadrill. So I picked Excadrill with the 5th pick. Tyranitar went after that, and then I picked Hippowdon because for me that was a better sand setter than Gigalith in my opinion, even though it did share the ground type with Excadrill. So immediately I drafted Excadrill, and I thought I needed to get a sand setter, which is what I did with Hippowdon. My next pick was Silvally because Silvally is super versatile. It can be every type. I'm not going to go into each Pokemon individually, but you get the idea. Then I thought I needed some speed and a really nice special attacker, which is why we chose Gengar. Rotom-Mow, at the time, it had an immunity to ground, which is something that I needed. Although it is weak to ice, it does resist water as well. And it provides a great pivot mon that can also get Will-O-Wisp and Defog, so good utility there as well. And then we have Mantine, which gets Water Absorb, another weakness that we have. Rotom and Mantine work pretty well together, which is why I chose that. Flygon was chosen because Haxorus was chosen right before my pick in this round. I really wanted Haxorus, and, it unfortunately didn't happen, but, that's the way it goes sometimes in these drafts. So Flygon was really the next best dragon type that I thought was available. It has setup potential. It is another ground type. It's another ice weakness. And at this point we have 4, which is not the greatest, but we can play around that in my opinion. I then drafted Passimian. Mostly, we'll talk about its utility later, but it was only 4 points, so I thought it was tremendously under tier and an incredible value. It's half as much as something like Rotom-Mow or Mantine, so I really thought that was fantastic value. And then at this point, I had a couple of different options. I was thinking maybe Salazzle, Gardevoir, and maybe something with lower points, because at this point I had 29 points left. But then I saw, Gothitelle's available. Charizard was something that I had my eyes on. I didn't want another ground weakness. Obviously it's not an ice resistance, but it's something that can take out an ice type. Charizard is. So I saw Gothitelle was available and that Shadow Tag was unbanned, and I decided to go over that. I decided to go with that instead of Gardevoir, which Gardevoir did some great things for me last season. But I wanted to try out Gothitelle, and then as I said, Charizard, decent Pokemon, decent speed tier, pretty good special attack. And it's much more viable in this generation with an item like Heavy Duty Boots. Then we have Golisopod. I thought, I needed some more priority on my team, and this mon gets a ton of priority, which we'll talk about. And, it's another ice resistance, which, and it had really a ground resistance as well, which, we kind of needed. Alright, so let's get into each Pokemon individually, and we'll talk about my strategy a bit more. I'm going to take a drink of water here as I switch the slide here. I'm not gonna edit that. I'm not gonna edit that out. I'm sorry. It is. What is it? It's 6 in the morning. I apologize. I need to get this up. So, the first mon that we drafted was Excadrill, and Excadrill is a fantastic mon. And something. It's been an OU staple for years now. With its 110 special or HP, excuse me. It's 135. Attack and its speed tier of 88, which is not the greatest, but it allows you to outspeed. It's a decent speed, I should say. But obviously this Pokemon has 3 different abilities in Sand Rush, Sand Force, and Mold Breaker, all good in their own right, although Sand Rush and Mold Breaker are going to be the ones that we use a bit more. I'm noticing there's a colon on the screen after Mold Breaker. I probably shouldn't bring attention to it, but I apologize for that. That is a typo. But it's okay. So obviously, this thing, it gets Earthquake, it gets Iron Head, it gets Rock Slide. Those are its staples. And then it gets Rapid Spin, which a lot of people run in order to, in this generation, that actually raises your speed, but also obviously to get rid of hazards as well. It can also set up Stealth Rocks, it can set up with a Swords Dance, and it gets Poison Jab, which is decent coverage, Brick Break as well. So Rock Slide, Stone Edge. I don't think I mentioned Stone Edge, I just think I said Rock Slide. X-Scissor is another interesting move. I will say Dynamax is banned. I don't know if I said that, but I did say OU clauses expire. OU clauses are followed. That includes the Dynamax ban, so there is no Dynamax at all in this league. But basically, this thing is a sweeper. And we have sand, so this thing is meant to either set up in the sand or, just be in the sand and outspeed everything and hit it with an Earthquake or an Iron Head. And then it has some utility as a lead mon if I want to use it that way as well. So the next mon that we have is Hippowdon, which is going to be our Sand Setter with Sand Stream and Sand Force. We're probably only going to be using it as Sandstream, as a Sandstream Pokemon. It has a good HP stat with 108, 112 attack, and 118 defense. So for those of you who were with me for Season 1 of the TBA know that Sand was huge for me. I had Tyranitar and Landorus Eye, Sand Force Landorus Eye, and I used Rock Polish Landorus Eye all the dang time. It took lives. And essentially, this is what I'm hoping for with Excadrill, to sort of have that same type of ability, that same type of sweet potential. And I needed a Sand Setter, as I said. Hippowdon was the mon I chose, mostly because Tyranitar is gone, but Hippowdon is a very good Pokemon in its own right, with its stats that I mentioned earlier. It hits hard, it takes hits on the physical side, it gets good moves like Earthquake, Body Press is a new move that it gets, which is really nice. It gets Crunch as well, but then it also gets, it's another Rock Setter that we can use. It can Whirlwind out Pokemon to get a little bit more chip off. It gets reliable recovery and slack off, Rock Slide, Iron Head, Fire Fang, Heavy Slam, a bunch of coverage that I failed to mention earlier. And, it can set up on the defensive side with, like, Amnesia, but, I doubt we'll ever use that. But, just an all-around pretty good Pokemon. I can yawn as well, put things to sleep, force them out. But a good defensive Pokemon and a Sand Setter like we needed. Sand Setter, excuse me. Next, we chose Silvally. And for me, the name of the game in draft format is versatility. I will take a Pokemon that has a little bit lower stats, but that can have unpredictable movesets, or just unpredictable utility that can throw my opponent off, or something that I need to bring just to make the opponent think that much more. So sand is something that my opponent has to prepare for, whether I bring it or not. And Silvally is another Pokemon like that. It can be any type in the game. It can be any type. And, that's incredible utility. And so, I have all the types here. I was thinking, well, should I just do, the one type or normal type? But no, I decided to put all the abilities there because, I thought it would be kind of funny. Anyway, what I will say is that this Pokemon stats, they don't seem the greatest. 95 across the board is, it is what it is, but that's still pretty good. Like, it's still, it has good stats, and its versatility just makes up for it. And on top of that, in this generation, multi-attack got a buff. It went from 90 to 120 base power, so if I put a memory on it, that's 120 base stab for anything in the game. So it gives us then the other ice resistance potentially that we need. It gives us a potential ground resistance. Whatever we need, it can do. And on top of all of that, the diverse move pool cannot be understated in this Pokemon. And I'm just going to read these moves off. It can be a physical or a special attacker. It gets Air Slash, Crunch, Double Edge, which never going to use that. Draco Meteor, Dragon Claw, Explosion, Facade, Fire Fang, Flamethrower, Flash Cannon, Heat Wave, Hyper Voice, Ice Beam, Ice Fang, Iron Head, Multi Attack, Outrage, Parting Shot. So it can be a nice pivot Pokemon. Psychic Feigns, Rock Slide, Shadow Ball, Shadow Claw, Steel Beam, the new Steel type move, Surf, Swords Dance, T-Bolt, T-Wave, Tri-Attack, U-Turn, X-Scissor, and Zen Headbutt. So those are the moves that are listed. It also gets Aerial Ace as well. That can you know, you can utilize that. It gets all the weather set up in the game. So that's another, you know, it can be another sand setter. It can set up a different type of weather, you know, maybe for a sunny day for Charizard, which we'll talk about later. But it gets all the fangs. It gets, I think, all the beams. Well, not all the beams, I should say, but the Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, sort of trifecta, and Surf as well. So, and then obviously multi-attack is literally any move in the game at 120 base power. I mean, that's incredible. No recoil, no damage taken. It's just a great move. Alright. Next up, we have Gengar. So Gengar has suffered in the last 2 generations, really, because it has lost the Levitate ability. So, you know, it's not a reliable switch-in onto a Ground-type Pokemon, but it is still a great Pokemon nonetheless. It does have that Cursed Body ability, so if someone happens to hit me and I, for some reason, live, it has the potential to lose that move, which is decent against Choice Pokemon as well. Anyway, this thing is just a speedster, and that can hit. It's a Pokemon that can hit hard. Poison and Ghost are really good offensive typings. Well, Poison more so than Ghost, but Ghost is valuable in a Draft League format because everyone has Psychic types, and Ghost is super prevalent in this generation, so to be able to counter that with your own Ghost type is very important. So the 130 special attack and the 110 speed are what stand out here, and it gets, you know, it has a pretty good move pool with Dark Pulse, Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball, excuse me, Focus Blast, you know, Giga Drain if you want to use it. It gets set up with Nasty Plot, and then obviously Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave, Thunderbolt as well. It can also learn Trick if I want to, you know, run something like that, you know, Choice Scarf, Choice Specs, Trick. It, you know, gets Taunt if I ever want to use that. I don't know if that will ever really be something that I use, but, you know, a good move pool, a decent move pool for a sweeper like this, and something that I can bring, you know, to revenge kill my opponent's Pokemon. There are not that many Pokemon that outspeed it. Obviously there are. I think almost every team has a Mon. Well, let's see here. Let me look at the rosters here. So, like, obviously something like Dragapult is not the greatest to fight against, but a lot of Pokemon, or a lot of teams have Mons that, you know, either outspeed it or approach the speed tier. But, you know, 110 speed, that's a great speed tier. You know, no more than really one Pokemon's going to outspeed it on most teams. So, it's a good Pokemon. It's a solid Pokemon, and I'm excited to use it. Next up, we have Rotom Mow. So, Rotom Mow, all the Rotoms are really good, but Rotom Mow has been really useful in this generation. Obviously, it has that Levitate ability, so it has the Ground-type immunity, but we also quad resist... no, we don't quad resist Grass, sorry. What I meant to say was we resist Grass and we resist Water, which are those are two things that are super effective against ground types, and we have a lot of ground types on the team. And then, you know, it gets moves like Discharge, Thunderbolt, you know, Volt Switch for some switch initiative. It can get Trick if that's something I want to use it for. It gets Will-O-Wisp, which is run pretty often, but it also can be a screen setter. It can set up with Nasty Plot, and, you know, it gets other moves like Dark Pulse and Hex that can be useful as well, Shadow Ball as well. So, not a deep move pool, not the greatest move pool, but just a really solid Pokemon that can, you know, gain you some momentum in a match, and that can, you know, sponge up some hits. Alright, let's go on to the next Pokemon, which is Mantine. So Mantine was a Pokemon that I had my eye on, and especially after I chose Rotom Mow, you know, it's something that I really wanted. It's another Ground-type immunity, which helps us with Gengar and Excadrill. Unfortunately, it doesn't fully resist Ice, but with our bulky, huge special defense stat at 140 and our decent HP stat, we should be able to sponge up most special hits. We do resist Ice with the Roost, but we're not going to be outspeeding too much. in order to get that off before the ice, but whatever. It's a good Pokemon. You know, we'll see if I want a more traditional water type. You know, another Pokemon that I was considering at this point was Rotom Wash. Well, not at this point, prior to me getting Rotom Mo. Just because that sort of did what Rotom Mo does, and also it resists ice. But I decided to go this route because I thought Water Absorb would be nice to have on this team, which is one of its 3 abilities. Swift Swim and Water Veil we're probably never going to use. Swift Swim could be useful in certain situations, but it's mostly going to be a special defensive wall that can sponge up water-type hits that can be a switch-in onto special attacking threats. It does get Air Slash, Hydro Pump, and Scald as its main forms of stab. And it can also set up Tailwinds. It gets Roost, as I mentioned earlier. And it gets some really weird and interesting physical type coverage. It gets Earthquake, Gunk Shot, Body Press, Seed Bomb, Rock Slide, Liquidation, Iron Head. Like, it's just weird. But you can see its attack stats 40. So, you know, those aren't, you know, unless I can pull it off, you know, somehow, or in certain very rare situations, those things aren't going to do very much. It also gets Ice Beam as well, which I failed to mention. You know, it can set up rain. Again, you know, weather is going to be important with this team. I might not always want the sand up, so, you know, we'll see. But for the most part, it's just going to be a Pokemon that can sponge up those special hits. Next, we have Flygon. As I was saying, it's a ground dragon type, another Levitator. So, you know, Flygon's an interesting Pokemon because it has that 100 attack and it has that 100 speed, which is good. Like, it's solid. But in other generations, it's been really outshined by other dragon types. I will say, in this generation, a lot of the dragon type Pokemon that came over, you know, are slower than that 100 speed tier. So, you know, in the past, we've had Garchomp has been a huge threat to it. But in this generation, the only dragon type, I believe, that outspeeds it at max speed is Dragapult. And that thing outspeeds everything. But Haxorus has 97 speed, Hydreigon has 98 speed, Goodra has 80 speed, Noivern outspeeds it. That's right, Noivern outspeeds it with 123 speed. But Turtonator has 36, Drampa has 35, Komodo has 85, Flapple and Appleton are really slow, with 70 and 30 respectfully. Dracovish and Dracozolt have 75, Duraludon has 85 speed, but Dragapult and Noivern are the only 2 dragon types that are allowed in this format that do outspeed. Dracovish is not even allowed, so that doesn't even matter. And also Dracloak, but no one has Dracloak, so that is not a big deal. So what that means is that, you know, 100, it's better than it used to be, in my opinion. And I'm really starting to like this Pokemon and like having it on my team. So obviously it gets Stab Earthquake and Stab Outrage / Dragon Claw, which is, you know, those are good moves. Those are good, solid moves. It also gets other coverage. It gets Crunch, it gets Fire Punch, it gets Quick Attack, which is not really coverage, but it could be useful. It gets Superpower, Throat Chop, Thunder Punch, and Stone Edge / Rock Slide as well. And then it gets U-Turn, so it can have, you know, it can have some really nice switch initiative. It also can set up with Dragon Dance, which is really useful. After one Dragon Dance, you know, it hits pretty hard and it outspeeds a lot of things. But what I'm really excited about is that this mon gets First Impression as well, which is just an incredible move. It's a priority move, it's 90 base power, it is bug type, but it is a very, very good move that can be useful against a lot of Pokemon in this game. You know, there's a lot of Psychic type Pokemon that are out there, and a lot of Dark type Pokemon that are out there as well. You know, I'm looking right now, Hatterene, you know, it's neutral, but it still does a lot to that Pokemon. You know, I'm looking at some of the other teams, and, you know, there's Espeon that's out there, Malamar, Hydreigon, Grimmsnarl, again, it's neutral, but it does a lot of damage. Musharna is on a team. Indeedee's on a team. So you know, there's so many Pokemon out there. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but there's so many Pokemon that type of move can be really good against. You know, priority is great, but a priority move with that much base power that has no other stipulations, you can just use it. You know, it's not like Sucker Punch. You know, it's stronger than Extreme Speed. It's just a really, really nice move to have on the team, even if it's neutral against anything. It's really good. So I'm getting more and more excited. I'm more excited now than I was at the start of this video to use this Pokemon. All right, next up, I'm gonna try to move faster because you know we're kind of running out of time here, but not running out of time, but it's getting towards the long end. Our next Pokemon is Passimian. So Passimian, in my opinion, is an incredibly underrated Pokemon, and it's just a fantastic Pokemon in the draft format. It has 100 HP, 120 attack, 90 defense, which is good, and 80 speed. 80 speed is not the greatest, so you know there's just gonna be a lot of wall breakers and you know setup mons that do outspeed this Pokemon. But it has high attack, it has very good HP and very good defense, and it just has the deepest move pool really ever. So it gets moves, it gets a lot of stab moves. It only has the one type, the fighting type, but it gets Brick Break, which can be useful to get rid of those screens, Drain Punch, Close Combat, and Superpower. I'll probably really only be using Close Combat instead of Superpower, but you never know. It also gets moves like Acrobatics, Earthquake, Gunk Shot, Iron Head, Knockoff, Seed Bomb, Rock Slide, and U-Turn, another mon that can switch. It also gets set up like Bulk Up. You know, it doesn't get Swords Dance, unfortunately, but Sub Bulk Up could be really useful. It does get Quick Attack for a bit of priority. It also gets Work Up along with Bulk Up, but you know, why would I ever use Bulk Up? And a move that I think is really underrated and really underutilized is Electro Web. It's a fit. You know, I'm probably never going to use it with this Pokemon, but you know, I feel like I might break it out one time. It is a special move, but it has a 100% chance to lower your opponent's speed by 1, so we'll see. I was just saying it's more underutilized in general, not necessarily with this Pokemon. But also, surprisingly, it can set up the rain and it can set up the sun as well, if that's, you know, something we wanted to do for some reason. And it also gets moves like, you know, Assurance. It is slower than a lot of Pokemon, so if I am damaged the turn, I can hit back with a strong Dark type move. If for some reason, you know, I don't want to use Knockoff. But yeah, overall, just a very, very good Pokemon that I think will be very useful in this format with its very deep move pool. Finally, we probably have the scariest Pokemon on my team, Gothitelle. While it doesn't seem like it has the greatest stats, another 490 base power Pokemon, base stat Pokemon, with its 70 HP, 95 defense, 95 special attack, and 110 special defense. The scary thing about this Pokemon is Shadow Tag. And I was talking about earlier, I always want to bring Pokemon, I always want to have things that the opponent has to prepare for, right? It's like, you know, it's kind of like in football, if you have like someone like Christian McCaffrey or Michael Thomas, you know, you have to prepare for that. Some of your planning has to account for that, and that can potentially take away or cause you to overlook other parts of your team. Or, you know, if you don't use this mon, you know, it can completely catch the other person by surprise. So, you know, Shadow Tag, you have to know, if you either have to have a Shed Shell in order to switch out from this Pokemon, or if you don't have a Shed Shell and you have something that's vulnerable to Gothitelle, if Gothitelle is there at the back of your mind, you always have to consider the double switch. You know, you have to think, are the Yampers going to bring Gothitelle in, and is it in my best interest to double switch right now? So you can play a lot of cool mind games with that. And honestly, first game competitive are decent abilities. But, you know, Shadow Tag is really going to be the one thing that it's used for. Now, its moveset, you know, its move pool, not the greatest in the world. It gets Dark Pulse, Energy Ball, Psychic, Psyshock, Shadow Ball, T-Bolt, and very importantly now, Stored Power. So stored power, is a move that its power goes up based on how many stats you have, or how many stat boosts you have rather. So if you get a couple of Calm Minds off, it's very powerful. So this thing does get Calm Mind. It can be a screen setter. It gets Nasty Plot as well. So Nasty Plot, Calm Mind, stored power, just very, very useful. It gets Fake Out, which honestly more useful in doubles, but it can also taunt and trick room as well. So a lot of cool utility, but mostly it's there to trap things and take them out. That's really the biggest use for it in the world. It can also Hypnosis if I ever want to do that, but not the greatest move in the world with its accuracy. Cosmic Power as well. The only thing I wish it did get was Wish. I did not mean to say it like that, but I do wish it got Wish. I don't have Heal Passing on this team, which is one thing, which is one reason why I almost took Gardevoir, because Gardevoir has Healing Wish and Wish over Gothitelle. Alright, next up, our penultimate Pokemon is Charizard. So again, in the past, Charizard has been bad. It's just been bad because of, its typing, Fire Flying, you're 50% weak to rocks. 100 speed used to not be the greatest thing in the world, but now it's decent. And the 109 special attack is decent as well. It also has decent all-around stats, 75 HP, 84 attack, 78 defense, and 85 special defense. So a very well-balanced Pokemon. And honestly, in my mind, it can be a special or a physical attacker. So obviously the special attacking set is probably going to be the most common thing that we bring when we bring Charizard this season. It does get Blaze and Solar Power, so if you want to do some shenanigans there with... It's not really shenanigans, but if you want to set up the Sun, that is something that we can do if we want to. With another Pokemon. Blaze also, it boosts your Fire-type moves when you are 33% or less, so, that's always decent. In terms of being a special attacker, it gets Air Slash, Dragon Pulse, Fire Blast, and Flamethrower, Hurricane, and that's really about it. But all of its setup potential, really, aside from workup, is on its physical side. Also, it gets Solar Beam, by the way. That's another thing that it gets. But all of its setup potential is on its physical side. It gets Dragon Dance, it gets Belly Drum, and it gets Swords Dance. So 3 incredible setup moves on the physical side. And it gets really good physical moves. It gets Acrobatics, Fire Punch, Flare Blitz, Blaze Kick, Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Outrage, Shadow Claw, Rock Slide, Thunder Punch as well. It can also Roost and Will-O-Wisp as well. So, oh my gosh, did they get rid of Roost? Does Charizard not get Roost anymore? What? Wait a second. Roost is still a move, isn't it? Okay, it is still a move. Wait. Okay. I mean, it's not a big deal if I said I got Roost. I wasn't really thinking about that when I drafted it, but apparently it does not get Roost anymore. Maybe it's like an event move or something. So I'll need to look into that. You're gonna hear me clacking away here, but as I was talking about earlier about his 50% weakness to rocks, the thing about this generation is we can have heavy duty boots, so we don't have to take damage from our rocks. So apparently there's not a TM or a TR for Roost in this game, but it is what it is. I'll look into it a little bit more. Sorry, I'm a little bit caught off guard, not gonna lie. But anyway, it's a good Pokemon. It can be a physical or special attacker. It can be a mixed attacker. It has setup potential. It's a fire type, which we needed. It's another ground immunity. It's another Pokemon that can sort of sponge up ice type hits. So all around, just a decent, solid Pokemon that can be very useful. And then finally we have Golisopod. So emergency exit, obviously a terrible ability, but sometimes it can be useful. But for the most part, it's a terrible ability. This Pokemon switches out when it reaches half or less of its maximum HP. So, you know, I'll have to think about ways to use it. But this Pokemon hits like a truck. It has 125 attack. It can sponge up hits with its 140 defense and its 90 special defense. And, you know, it has 75 HP, which is decent for a wall breaker. Also, you know, it's slow, but that can be useful against Trick Room teams, which there are a couple of teams that have the potential to run Trick Room. But the real place where this shines is in its move set. It has a great move set, in my opinion. So it gets a lot of priority. It gets Aqua Jet, it gets Sucker Punch, and it gets First Impression, the move I was talking about earlier, which I absolutely love. And then it gets some really good coverage. It gets Close Combat, it gets Drill Run, it gets Iron Head, Leech Life, which is not coverage, but it's, you know, it's Stab, which is useful. Liquidation, another stab move. Poison Jab, Rock Slide, Shadow Claw, and Throat Chop. So very, very good moves there that, you know, it has decent variety, and a pretty deep move pool. It also has setup potential with Swords Dance and Bulk Up, and it also is a spike setter. So I didn't have a spike setter prior to this, and the fact that this thing also could be one of those, made me say, okay, you know what, I really want to take this. I have a water type already, but, this Pokemon, it just seemed like so much fun to use and really too good for me to pass up with the last pick in the draft. Alright, so that is my entire team. If you have any thoughts, make sure you put it in the comments below. I do know this was a really long video, so I'm going to get out of here. Make sure you like and subscribe, as I said at the top of the video, if you did enjoy my content, and so you don't miss any of our TBA content. With that, I'm going to get out of here. Remember, a video from Big Time keeps your life sublime, so until next time, bye!